November 1912, the Paint Creek Valley, West Virginia. He drops from the iron ladder of a Chesapeake and Ohio coal hopper into a foot of freezing mud. The company owns the tracks, the mud, and the distant houses, yet the valley is entirely silent at noon. He moves parallel to the single dirt road winding toward Mucklow, staying hidden in the bare timber. Let me tell you about this valley in 1912 because you need to understand that walking on this dirt road without a company pass was legally trespassing. He has no pass. The journey here cost him 3 days on the steel floor of an empty hopper. The wind stripped the heat from his boots as the Class G7 steam locomotive dragged the cars through the mountains. Stopping would have meant freezing, so he kept his blood moving. He crouches behind a deadfall oak, watching the wooden bridge ahead. 2 men in thick overcoats stand at the crossing, holding Winchester Model 1894 lever-action rifles. They are Baldwin-Felts mine guards, and they decide who breathes the air in this valley. He bypasses the bridge entirely, wading through the knee-deep, freezing water of Paint Creek. The water numbs his legs instantly. From the creek bed, he looks up at Mucklow, rows of identical wooden houses clinging to the steep hillside, a monument to total economic control. He pulls himself up the muddy bank and empties the water from his boots in the shadows of the company store. This town does not run on American dollars. A documented worker here is paid in brass scrip coins, valid only at this exact building. He feels a deep vibration in the frozen ground beneath his frozen boots. Far up the mountain, a Jeffrey 35, a shortwall coal cutter, is tearing into the earth. The sound is a low, mechanical grinding that never stops, dictating the rhythm of every life here. He walks higher into the tree line, avoiding the main paths entirely. Below him, he sees something the company literature never mentioned: families shivering in canvas tents pitched in the freezing mud. They are the evicted, thrown out of company housing for demanding a union. This is not the kind of thing that appears in official company records. The operators documented coal tonnage and scrip balances. What we have is a notation in his margins, the exact temperature that morning and the number of armed guards watching the tents. He huddles against a rock outcropping, calculating his remaining food. He has half a loaf of stale bread wrapped in wax paper. Down in the town, a pound of company flour costs double the national average, ensuring the men are always in debt. A woman carrying scavenged firewood notices him from the edge of the tent colony. According to a later Union relief record, she saw a stranger on the ridge who didn't walk like a miner. She doesn't call out. Silence is the safest currency here. He watches the sky turn the color of bruised iron above the Kanawha Valley. Snow begins to fall, sticking to the black coal dust on the leaves. He cannot stay on this ridge, but moving down into the guarded town means certain interrogation. His name does not appear in these notes, not once. Whether that was deliberate or whether the notes simply never reached the pages where he wrote it, we don't know yet. If you want to be here when we find out, subscribe. The road continues. He slides down the frozen embankment, his wool trousers snagging on the dormant briars. Below him, the town of Mucklow sits under a shroud of coal smoke. He avoids the main company gate where the Baldwin-Felts guards check every face for a union card. A low whistle echoes through the canyon, but it isn't a standard freighter. He crouches in the shadows as the quote 16 an armored train lined with machine guns crawls past Mucklow. The company built the town, and now they are fortifying the hill. He watches a miner's wife emerge from the company store with a single sack of cornmeal. In 1912, these stores charged 30% more than independent shops in Charleston. He has no scrip, and his pockets hold only 4 silver dimes, useless in a town that rejects American currency. By dusk, he finds a row of abandoned beehive coke ovens near the creek. He crawls inside one of the cold brick domes to escape the biting wind. The bricks still smell of sulfur and old fires, a documented remnant of a valley that never stops burning. The temperature drops toward 0 as the sleet turns to driving snow. He pulls his wool coat tight, shivering on the damp floor of the brick oven. The notes describe the sound of the wind whistling through the furnace vents, a sound like a low, mournful flute. A beam of light cuts through the darkness, sweeping across the opening of his oven. He presses his back against the cold bricks as 2 guards pass by, their heavy boots crunching on the frozen slag. They are looking for agitators, but they would settle for a vagrant. Let me tell you about the Baldwin-Felts Agency because in 1912 they were effectively the law in West Virginia's coal fields. They were a private army hired to break unions, and they operated with more power than any local sheriff. To them, a man with no job was a threat. By the second morning, the hunger is a dull ache in his stomach. He has only a handful of hard crackers left, their taste like dry flour and wood smoke. In a town where every calorie is recorded in a company ledger, an unrecorded meal is a miracle. The mechanical grinding from the mines grows louder as the shifts change. He watches the quote 25 small open cars, carrying exhausted miners back down the slope. Their faces are masked in a layer of coal dust so thick it looks like black grease under the winter sun. He moves across the tracks during the shift change, a dangerous gamble in broad daylight. This railbed is company property, and a documented arrest for trespassing here could lead to a month on a county work farm. He stays low, moving between the piles of slag. He finds a crumpled newspaper near the depot, the quote 27 dated 3 days prior. The headlines speak of quote 29 and quote 30. To the world, this is a political crisis. To him, it is just a valley where a man can't walk freely. Now, think about what that valley looked like in November of that year. The only sounds were the heavy grinding of the mine fans and the crunch of guards' boots on the frost. There was no music here, just the mechanical rhythm of extraction. He hides behind a water tower as a special train pulls into the siding. Dozens of men with cardboard suitcases step off. Strike breakers are, quote, 33 brought in from the cities. They look confused, their cheap city shoes already sinking into the West Virginia mud. He looks at the black seams of coal exposed in the hillside cuts. These seams, the number 2 gas and the Eagle, are some of the richest in the country. The wealth they produce travels east in heavy steel cars, leaving nothing behind but debt and dust. He finds a small fire pit behind a storage shed, the embers still glowing faintly. He warms his hands for 3 minutes, his eyes darting toward every shadow. The notes mention the smell of wet wool and charred hickory, the sensory map of a man on the run. He passes a notice posted on a telegraph pole, a warning about the quote 36 contract. To work here, you had to sign a pledge never to join a union. To walk here, he realizes, you have to sign away your right to exist in the record. He reaches the edge of the Mucklow yard as the sun begins to fade. He needs to catch a southbound freighter before the night patrol doubles. The tracks are the only way out, but they are also the most heavily guarded corridor in the county. He watches the depot from the safety of a rusted boiler. A guard is checking the manifests of every car. This is not about cargo theft. It's about making sure no union organizers are slipping into the valley. He is just a shadow in the wrong place. The air here smells of sulfur, wet wool, and the metallic tang of cold steel. It is the smell of the American industrial machine at its most brutal. He records these scents in his notes, details that the official history books always seem to forget. He spots 2 bulls, railroad police, patrolling the south end of the yard. They carry heavy wooden clubs and a reputation for using them on anyone without a ticket. He waits for the precise moment when the steam from a departing locomotive obscures their view. As he prepares to run, 3 sharp cracks echo from the ridge above Mucklow. Shots. He doesn't know who is firing, but the yard erupts into chaos. Guards scramble toward the sound, leaving the south siding momentarily unwatched. It is his only chance. The cold is not a metaphor here, it is a physical weight that slows your blood and dulls your mind. He runs across the tracks, his breath coming in ragged white plumes. Every step in the mud feels like a decision with permanent consequences. The armored train passes him again, a slow-moving fortress of iron and wood. He watches it from the tall weeds, realizing that the company hasn't just built a town, they've built a prison with its own rolling artillery. He waits for the gap. He looks back at the Holly Grove tent colony as the snow begins to bury the canvas. The miners' families are still there, huddled against the cold while the guards regroup on the hill. The notes record a single observation. The hill belongs to the company, but the snow belongs to no one. He knows he cannot stay another night in the coke ovens. The bull moose special and the shots on the ridge mean the valley is closing in. He identifies a southbound freight slowing at the curve, a coal train bound for the docks in Norfolk. He sprints toward the slowing train, his boots sliding on the frozen ballast. The engine's steam hiss drowns out the sound of his own breathing. He reaches for the iron grab iron of a passing gondola, his fingers numb but desperate. The massive steam locomotive, a Mallet-type 2662, roars past him, engulfing the track in a blinding white cloud. He pulls himself up onto the steel ladder, his muscles screaming against the cold. The town of Mucklow begins to recede into the fog. He rolls over the side into the pile of raw coal. It is hard, jagged, and freezing, but it is moving south. He huddles in the corner of the car, the black dust instantly coating his skin. He is leaving the company town, but he is carrying its dirt with him. The steady clack-clack of the wheels over the rail joints becomes his only company. The notes record the rhythm of the journey, the way the steel groans under the weight of the coal. It is a sound of extraction and departure recorded by a man who owns nothing. By midnight, he crosses the Kanawha County line. The guards, the scrip, and the armored trains are behind him, but the cold remains. He realizes that even beyond the company property, the road in 1912 offers no easy warmth for a man with no destination. Let me tell you about the Paint Creek strike, because the events he witnessed in November of 1912 would escalate into one of the deadliest labor conflicts in American history. Thousands would be arrested, and the valley would be governed by the military for months. He saw it coming. He looks at his pencil, the graphite nearly worn to the wood. The notes he made in Mucklow are smudged with coal dust, a physical layer of the valley bonded to the paper. He writes one last line. __quote _5 7 __. He thinks about the company store one last time. It was a trap designed to keep men underground, paying for their own chains in brass scrip. He has no money, but as the train picks up speed, he realizes he is the only one in the valley who is truly free. The hill recedes into a black mass against the starlit sky. The fires from the coke ovens are invisible now, but the mechanical grinding of the fans still vibrates in the air. He turns his back to the wind, sinking deeper into the coal pile for warmth. We can trace his route from Mucklow to the Virginia border by the dates in the margins. He moved fast, covering 40 miles in 2 days. The notes become fragmented here, the writing shaky, the result of trying to document a life on a moving freight car. The notes from November 1912 end with a single dry observation. The road is not a place, it is a condition of existence. He doesn't mention where he is going, only that the coal beneath him is still warm from the earth. If this is the kind of historical storytelling you want to keep following, subscribe to the channel. More roads, more cases, more of what the official record left out. And if you know this era, this region, or this kind of road, tell us in the comments what you know, what the records missed, what your family remembered that nobody wrote down. The people who lived this history are the reason anyone can reconstruct it. We want to hear from them.